In this video lecture, we are going to discuss an unbalanced transportation model. So we know that in a transportation model, a product is transported from a number of sources to a number of destinations at the minimum possible cost, and we know that each source is able to supply a fixed number of units, and each destination node can also receive a certain fixed number of the units. So the difference between a balanced and unbalanced transportation problem is that in these models the supply and demand, they are not equal. And owing to this disparity between the supply and the demand, we will be writing some constraints with equalities and some with inequalities. So let's have a look at the example that we did for the balanced transportation model. So example is same, the only difference here is that we have now a supply of 1500 units and a demand of 2000 units. The cost data is same and the objective is same, that is to minimize the total transportation cost. Now since the supply is less than the demand, so just remember here that we will write supply constraint with equalities and we will write demand constraints with inequalities. So now let's have a look at the node diagram that we used for our in our first part for the balanced transportation models. So the objective function in an unbalanced problem, it remains the same as we wrote it for the balanced model, that was minimize z equal to 6x1a plus 8x1b plus 10x1c and so on and so forth until we reach the final point, and that is 7x3c. So the objective function remains the same now while writing the constraints, because the supply it is 1500 and the demand is 2000, and we want to make sure that we supply each and every product that we have at the supply nodes, and so that they can be shipped. So we will write the supply constraints with equalities and we will write it like uh, for China, it will be x1a plus x1b plus x1c. This must be equal to 500. For Poland, we will write it as x2a plus x2b plus x2c. This is also equal to 600, and then x3a plus x3b plus x3c. Sorry, this is also equal to 400. Now while writing the constraints for demand, because we know that we cannot fulfill the demand because supply is less than the demand, so we will not write the demand constraints with equality. So for New York, it is the quantity received by New York is either by 1 or by 2 or by 3, and this is, if we write it equal to 500, and for Dubai I write it equal to 1000, and for Cape Town equal to 500, then since supply is less than the demand, we will have an infeasible solution. So to find a feasible solution, we will write it with less than equal. Similarly for Dubai, we will write x1b plus x2b plus x3b, this is less than equal to 1000, and then x1c plus x2c plus x3c, this is less than equal to 500. So this is the way to write the constraints for an unbalanced transportation problem in which supply is less than demand. Now let's have a look at another type of the problem, another type of unbalanced problem. And in this problem, the supply is 1500 units and the demand is 1000 units. So now the supply is greater than demand. So and the remaining things, they are the same, the cost data is same, the objective is same, that is to minimize the total transportation cost. Now when supply is greater than demand, then remember that we will write the supply constraints with less than equal to, and we will write the demand constraint with the equalities. So let's see the node diagram, network diagram. So this is the diagram that we developed earlier. Now here you see that the supply is 1500 and the demand is 1000. So we cannot ship 1500 quantity to the demand centers that have a requirement of 1000 units. So we will write the supply constraint as x1a plus x1b plus x1c. This must be less than equal to 500. That means the quantity that is shipped, that is being shipped from China to New York, Dubai, and Cape Town, that must be less than or equal to 500. For Poland, we will write it as x2a plus x2b plus x2c. This is less than equal to 600. For Mexico, it will be x3a plus x3b plus x3c. This is less than equal to 400. And one thing which I also mentioned previously, that the objective function, it will remain same. There is no change in the objective function. The only thing changes is the constraints. So for New York, for writing the demand constraints, and for New York, Dubai, and Cape Town, remember that demand is less than the supply, and we want uh, all the demand to be fulfilled. So we will write it as x1a plus x2a plus x3a equal to 300, and x1b plus x2b plus x3b, it is equal to 300. And the quantity reaching Cape Town is either from China or, sorry, it is not A, it is C, x1c x2c plus x3c, it is equal to 400. So this is how we are going to write the constraints for an unbalanced problem. So when the demand is less than the supply, so we write demand with the equalities and supply with the inequalities. So that's it for the unbalanced transportation model. In the next video, I'll show you how to solve these problems, how to handle these problems using Excel. Thank you.